Today on LA Currents, homelessness is a hot topic here in LA and across the country. Here to address some of these issues, as well as solutions, is Stephanie Klasky-Gamer, President and CEO of LA Family Housing. Next, the Hollywood Walk of Fame is arguably the world's most famous sidewalk. We'll speak with producer Anna Martinez as she shares its history and the process of getting a star. But to start, Jasmine Kanek, the 2022 chair of South LA Pride, is here. Jasmine speaks to us about her involvement with the event and the importance of representation and inclusion of all Angelenos.
Each June, communities around the nation celebrate LGBTQ Pride Month. Here in Los Angeles, there's been a variety of activities, including a family-friendly event called South LA Pride. Joining us to talk about South LA Pride is journalist and community advocate Jasmine Kanek. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Anita.
Yeah, so you are the 2022 chair of South LA Pride, correct?
I am. It's such an honor to have been chosen for that position.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about South LA Pride.
Well, it's exactly what the name is, right? It's queer folks who live in South LA celebrating Pride. And traditionally, particularly in Los Angeles, a lot of people of color communities, POC communities, would hold different Pride celebrations outside of June, primarily because they felt like they weren't represented or reflected in sort of the mainstream Pride celebrations that would take place in West Hollywood. And in Los Angeles, for example, Black Pride for over 30 years was always Independence Day weekend. It was, and there still is a Black Pride, right? And then you would have a lot of Latino Pride celebrations in September. And now, in 2022, there are Pride celebrations everywhere. Everywhere I look, there are Pride celebrations, but South LA Pride, to me, it represents not just our culture, our pride in just being, Angelenos from, the south part of the city, but also the fact that within our own community, we can celebrate Pride. We don't have to go to West Hollywood. We don't have to go to other parts of the county to celebrate who we are. We can do it in our own communities with our own family and friends.
Mm-hmm. Well, Councilman Harris Dawson sent us a greeting about South LA Pride. Let's take a look.
The South LA Pride event was something we were very proud to sponsor. We started this off about 6 years ago, and obviously in the last 2 years we had to call it off because of COVID. And so this is the first year we're back, and so I'm excited at the turnout, I'm excited at the energy, and I'm excited that we're starting to build momentum again. It's important to have a celebration to South LA in particular and focused on the Black community, because after all, Pride is a celebration of an action that started with a Black trans woman being beaten by police and the resistance that came from the community upon that event. And so we want to continue to celebrate that resistance, continue to celebrate the importance of accepting everybody and accepting everybody as a family. We want to make sure people are recognized with their full selves in a way that it also acknowledges their culture and their struggle. We're so proud to have been able to involve Jasmine Kanek. She's been one of the leading activists for almost 20 years now. I remember her challenging at different points in time the mainstream LGBTQ community. I remember her making sure that the plight of people who are in prison who are LGBTQ is lifted to the forefront. I remember her making sure that people understood that I can walk in a room and I don't have to tell people I'm lesbian, but everybody knows that I'm Black. And so those struggles for her are not disconnected.
Wow, some powerful words from the councilman about you.
Yes, I was not expecting that, Anita.
Well, how does it make you feel?
Besides old, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like, maybe when I leave this earth, people will remember me. Some of the work that I did or tried to do.
South LA Pride is family friendly. Can you talk about that?
South LA Pride is hype and it's fun, but it's really meant for folks not only to just celebrate their pride, but be able to have an event where you can bring your family to. There are a lot of queer families, a lot of lesbian couples, gay couples, just a lot of folks in our community who are raising kids and families. And a lot of times with these pride celebrations, they don't necessarily feel like they should be bringing young ones to them. And so it was really important to organize an event that was just as fun as those other events, you know, with the food and everything, the vendors and the entertainment, but also had this element that recognized, hey, yeah, we have families in our community and we want to be able to bring our kids out as well. Or not just our kids, what if we want to bring our grandmothers or our grandfathers or our parents?
And with the entertainment, there's live entertainment. Talk about some of the events that happen every year.
So this is the 4th year for South LA Pride. It had to take a 2-year hiatus, obviously, because of the pandemic. So, you know, what was really important with the planning committee and the folks around the table for South LA Pride was that the artists who performed came from the community, right? So a lot of times you'll go to Pride celebrations and they'll spend oodles and oodles of money on some big headliner, some, you know, famous musician, right? And the folks at the planning table for South LA Pride were like, no, we want to lift up artists from our own community. You know, look, Los Angeles is not short on talent. We may be short on housing for people, but not on talent. Okay?
Well, this is the entertainment capital.
Right, not talent. So there are plenty of queer BIPOC artists here in Los Angeles that wanted to perform, and I'm so happy that we were able to get a good slate of artists together who really represent the community.
And who were some of this year's artists?
So this year we had the Angela Davis of hip hop, my good friend Medusa. She's an actress, she can sing, she can rap. And then we had the famous trans chorus of Los Angeles. We had our disco queen Kiki Kite, an R&B crooner Clarice. We have a great performance from our ballroom community in Los Angeles, which is thriving. 2 of my favorite drag queens, Amber Crane and Soleil Valentino. And you know, what would a South LA Pride celebration be without having a gospel choir? So we were so blessed to have the renewed Church of LA's praise team. Los Angeles is home to a handful of Black churches that are specifically centered around the queer experience, and so many Black folks were asked to leave their churches or were not welcomed at traditional Black churches. And so these churches do have choirs, because you know, there's always that choir director, and we can sing. And so what better than to do it in our own church?
Yes. And there is a city element.
Yes.
This is hosted by 2 city council members. Talk about that.
Yes, I have an interesting relationship with both. One is my previous boss, council member Herb Wesson, and the other is council member Marquise Harris Dawson. Look, together, those gentlemen represent a huge portion of South LA, and they also represent where the majority of Black and definitely Black, but also brown queer folks live. Look, you know, I don't live in West Hollywood, no shade to West Hollywood, but I live where other Black people live. And that is traditionally what you find with Black queer families, right? That they live in the Black community. And so having those 2 men come together and say, look, we're going to put, you know, resources behind making sure that this is happening in our community, and we are going to lift up this part of our community, is amazing, because I can remember when you could barely get council members to show up and give a greeting at a Pride celebration or give you a certificate or recognize anyone who was queer. So we have come a very long ways.
And now they're hosting it.
Right.
Well, it sounds like you guys covered all the bases
Tried.
for South LA Pride. What does South LA Pride mean to you, quickly?
It means I can celebrate all of who I am. I could be as ghetto fabulous as I want. I could be as, you know, gay as I want in my community. But more importantly, it just means celebrating with family and community.
LA Family Housing has grown to become one of the largest providers of housing and homeless services in Los Angeles. I speak with Stephanie Klasky-Gamer, President and CEO, about how they set their clients on the road to stability and success. With a remarkable background in social and economic justice, housing policy, finance development, I am delighted to be joined today by the Executive Director of LA Family Housing, Stephanie Klasky-Gamer. So nice to be here.
Welcome. We're so thrilled to have you here at the Irmis Family Campus at LA Family Housing. LA Family Housing remains rooted in that understanding that there are multiple solutions to end homelessness in people's lives, from the immediate short-term intervention to get people indoors off the streets, but ultimately to permanently end homelessness for them, they need an apartment that is safe, affordable, and accessible.
But there's a lot more than that besides the permanent housing. So what are the focuses?
So LA Family Housing, at the core of all of our work, is rooted in the mission to help families and individuals transition out of homelessness and poverty. And we do that through a full continuum of care, from our street-based outreach teams to our interim housing, bridge housing. But then the core of the work falls with our staff as housing navigators and housing stabilizers who help families and individuals navigate the path into permanent housing. And then the secret nugget is to ensure that families and individuals stay stable and successful in their housing once they move into their own home.
But what about the financial stability part? Because they have to pay rent, and there have been a lot of life issues that have thrown a lot of people off, let alone people that are sort of on the cusp of recreating their existence. So how are you helping them with the stability financially?
Yeah, so the majority of our tenants in all of our apartment buildings do receive some form of rental subsidy.
Okay.
Maybe it's a benefit that they have from being a veteran. Maybe it comes from the Department of Mental Health. Maybe it comes from our housing authority. There are multiple forms of rental subsidy, and we try and align those subsidies with each of our buildings so that tenants pay 30% of their income, no matter what their income is. They have some form of income, albeit modest, and then whoever issued them the rental subsidies covers the rest of the operating costs for our apartment building.
You work really closely with, city organizations and other organizations. So how, because this is, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is, supported by a wide range of people and entities. How do you work with the city? Because what you just said about the city came to you and said, please, we're in a crisis. We know that you're effective. How can you help us?
We work really closely with the city, with the county, with the business and faith communities at large. But the city and the county have very unique roles, and we work with each of them, particularly because LA Family Housing is an affordable housing developer. Those funds and those land use decisions come from the city to build the housing. The county primarily manages all of the health and human service dollars across our region, so we work with them on the actual funding of the delivery of services. The city and county's partnership is critical to the success of all of our work. So we work closely both with the city and the county, and in the most ideal situation, the three of us are working like this together, because it is truly the need for the housing, the roof over people's heads, but the connection to the services so they can access that apartment and stay stable and successful in that apartment.
Are we dealing with an additional type of persons being unhoused? Or, how is the problem itself shifted since you started working here in 2007?
So when I joined the team 15 years ago, we were a staff of about 60 employees. Today we're a staff of nearly 500.
Wow.
We had an annual operating budget of about $6 million, and today an annual operating budget of nearly $80 million. There are resources, both human and financial resources, to address our crisis, but that kind of growth really only happened in the last 5-6 years. And that's when the community said, this is enough. For 3 decades, we have developed homelessness in Los Angeles. After 3 decades of slow growth land use policies that said, let's just keep it at 2 stories when we should have been building 4 stories.
Oh.
Let's keep it out of this neighborhood when we should have been in every neighborhood. When you have 30 years of slow growth land use decisions, you're going to end up with a lack of housing for people who need it at every income level. But then what starts happening is somebody who could have afforded this needs to rent this because that's what's available. And our clients who might have originally accessed housing at this level fell out of the market. Then you take the pandemic. We didn't have enough homes for everybody before the pandemic. But now you see a whole new crew of people falling into homelessness. Families, individuals, women, seniors, veterans, people who were working, and they might have been working low-wage jobs, but they were able to eke by and find a home that they could afford. But now they've lost that hourly wage because the restaurant they worked at was closed, or they needed to stay home because their kids had to be home and taking school in their bedroom rather than on the playground and in their classroom. That's so many more people that have fallen into homelessness. That all the good work we began doing, and I will say Los Angeles finally started to invest in new housing, in the right services, in ways that we hadn't invested 20 years before. I don't know the exact numbers, but I will tell you that in the last 5 years, we have built more housing than we did the 30 years prior.
Oh, really?
Collectively. We know what works to end homelessness in people's lives. We know that housing, that homes end homelessness. It is our best move in Los Angeles to build supportive housing for those that have experienced chronic homelessness, and we are just at the beginning of a mass production of more supportive and affordable homes throughout LA. But sadly, we got to that cusp of doing so much more at the same point that the pandemic hit and more people fell into homelessness. So we are outpacing ourselves by people falling into homelessness from those that we can move into homes every day.
You know, being an optimistic person, you obviously are, or else you wouldn't be dedicated to this field for so long. Where do your hopes and dreams lie?
My hopes and dreams lie in changing the narrative. I want people to feel confident that they've seen success. They've seen success in one person who they used to see outside of their grocery store every week, who moved into interim housing, moved into their own home. I think our best move is developing more housing. Our best move is supportive housing across Los Angeles, because with that, we will see success. We will see people moving off of our streets. But we have to change the narrative that nothing's getting done. Because, as you said, I'm an optimistic person, but I also rely on data. There is a ton getting done, and there are thousands of people's lives who are transitioning out of homelessness and poverty every day. We just need to share their stories.
All right, if people want to learn more and help you in any of your ways, because obviously I know you deal with a lot of, you know, not only financial needs, but, you know, human support needs.
Yep.
What's the best way for people to get more of this story?
Visit us at LA Family Housing. On all social media channels, you can look up LA Family Housing, and our website is a great first start, lafh.org.
Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing
much.
this space, enjoying the bright sunshine and the lovely Southern California heat, and spending time with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We're so grateful to the city for your partnership and love being able to talk with our fellow Angelinos.
The Hollywood Walk of Fame is home to over 2,700 stars, honoring noted celebrities and leaders in the entertainment industry. Producer Anna Martinez shares some of its rich history and the process of obtaining that coveted star.
Welcome to Hollywood. You have arrived.
The Hollywood Walk of Fame is one of the most iconic landmarks in California. Joining us now to talk about the popular attraction's past and its future is Anna Martinez. You are the producer of the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Correct.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So you just announced your class of 2023. Tell us about it. Who's on the list?
We've got 24 new honorees. Jenny Rivera, the late Jenny Rivera will be one, the late Paul Walker. And those two have gotten a lot of traction. People love them and they're very excited. And I expect huge crowds for those. We selected Lenny Kravitz, the Pentatonics, Uma Thurman, quite a few amazing celebrities.
How long ago did the Walk of Fame begin?
The Walk of Fame began in 1960. There were a couple of chamber executives, Harry Sugarman and E.M. Stewart, and they used to get asked, where are the stars? We don't see any stars. So they thought, yeah, we need to get some stars out here. And they had C.E. Toberman, who was a developer in the area, pick out the colors, the gray and pink. And but first, they were going to put them on a ceiling of a place, and that didn't work out. They didn't like that. And then they were going to do caricatures, but they were concerned that the celebrity would not like their caricatures, and they'd have to redo them. So they decided on creating the emblems that represent each category.
Wow. Well, what are the stars made of?
They're made out of terrazzo, and they're made by an amazing Italian family, the Paternostro family, and I started 35 years ago with their grandfather, and then I work with the son and the grandson and the cousin, so it's a family affair, and they're great people.
The recipients have 2 years to schedule a star ceremony.
Correct.
From the time that you announce the list. Has anyone ever not done that?
Oh yeah. We just did the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I think we waited more than 13 years for them. So basically they expire, but then I call the chairperson and I said, it's Ellen Kay from Coast Radio, and I say, are you okay? Do you want me to reinstate the star? She goes, of course. So we did the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but we waited a long time for them.
In terms of the popularity, I think I've read that this is like one of the top 5 most popular landmarks, tourist spots in California.
I think it's number 2 in California. And before COVID, I don't know what the numbers are now, but before COVID, it was 10 million a year that would come and see it.
So the big question, what does it cost to install a star, do the ceremony, everything?
Okay. So when you nominate someone on walkoffame.com, you have to have permission, first of all, from the celebrity in writing. Then we vote, the committee votes in June, and it's a $55,000 sponsorship fee. The majority of that money goes to a group called the Hollywood Historic Trust, and they repair and maintain the stars. The rest of the money goes to the making of the star, the breaking up of the square, making the star, security, a plaque, the whole production setup, everything. And that's where the rest of the money goes for a free event that we give to the tourists and fans.
And who does the nominating? Is it fans, studios?
Anybody can nominate a person with their permission, as I said, but it's usually record labels, TV, networks. Yeah, as long as they get the permission in writing, they can nominate them.
Okay, I'm going to get a little newsy here. Probably your 2 most controversial stars, Bill Cosby and Donald Trump. So what do you tell the media, the folks clamoring for them to be removed?
We don't remove stars. They're a part of the fabric of the history of the Walk of Fame. So we will not remove them. We will repair them when they're damaged, as we have been with Mr. Trump's.
What are some of the stars that you get the most requests for information about?
Marilyn Monroe, James Dean, Johnny Depp. We used to have an office there. By his star at the Roosevelt Hotel is our office. And I used to walk by his star to go to the parking lot, and I thought, if I had $1 for every person taking a picture, I'd be rich. Because they love Johnny Depp.
And Michael Jackson, I had some friends come from the East Coast, and that was like the main thing they wanted to see. And tell folks how they can find out where a star is located.
Oh, we have a website, walkoffame.com. We have these maps that they can come to the office and get. There's an app called the Official Walk of Fame app, and they can look up the people there. Or they can call the office. Sometimes they'll get me and I'll just tell them where.
Wow. So what have been some of your most popular ceremonies in terms of what did you like? Which stars?
I loved Andrea Bocelli's ceremony. He was not expected to sing. There was a group of children who sang on his record album, for a Christmas album, and a little girl did her solo, and he started singing with her. Even the cops were crying. It was very emotional. And Sophia Loren was another one. That was, she was just so awesome, so cool. And I'm trying to think, there's a lot of them. They're tear jerkers. I've been doing this for 35 years. I see them cry, I start to cry. It's a very emotional event for many of these people.
Can you think of off the top of your head how many of these you've produced?
More than 800.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. I beat Johnny Grant. He used to brag. I've done 600 stars. I go, well, Johnny, I beat you.
And Johnny Grant was known as the honorary mayor of Hollywood. He was this larger-than-life figure.
He was. I worked with him for 20 years. I was this shy kid, really shy kid, starting to work there, and he mentored me, and now I just talk too much. But he was fun to work with. Yeah. We did a star for Muhammad Ali, and Muhammad Ali, because his name is the name of the Prophet Muhammad, he asked Johnny if Johnny would do it on the wall of what is the Dolby Theater. And so Muhammad Ali's star, because of Johnny allowing it, is the only star on a wall.
Wow.
Yeah.
And was that because he didn't want people
He didn't want
walking?
people to step on the name of the Prophet Muhammad.
Okay. Oh.
And I had to go out there when he passed away, and we encircled it with ropes and stuff, and a lot of people went out there to pay their respects to him. And same with Michael Jackson. We do the memorial flowers for them, and people come in droves.
Wow. Any other stars that you had a lot of visitors for?
Our Latino people. Vicente Fernandez was a mariachi. He recently passed away. I did not know that this was going to happen. I did a ceremony for him on Veterans Day. Not thinking everybody in the world would be off that day. They all showed up. And so he had the largest amount of people. It was 4,000 people. Wow. Yeah, and that was, for many, many years, he was the record holder. And we did Selena Quintanilla.
Selena.
Yeah, and she beat him by 500. So she had 4,500 at a nighttime ceremony. And yeah. But he held that record a long time, and now she's got it.
Now, how many stars are there on the Walk of Fame?
Over 2,700.
Are you about to run out of room?
No, because Johnny Grant used to live at the Roosevelt. And so that was the most popular location, was Roosevelt, and we ran out. So Johnny and I were thinking, why don't we do a second row? So we have a second row of stars. So we'll never run out. And if we ever run out of all those second rows that we've created, we'll probably go down maybe Sunset or side streets, something like that.
But it extends all the way down to the Capitol Records building, correct?
So the Walk of Fame is on Hollywood Boulevard from La Brea to Gower, on Vine Street from Sunset to Yucca.
Wow. Well, Anna Martinez, producer of the Hollywood Walk of Fame, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your knowledge with us. Once again, can you tell people the website to get more information?
Sure. The website is walkoffame.com, and you'll get all kinds of information, how to nominate, the history, press releases of upcoming stars. That's where you'll see it all.
That is going to do it for this edition of LA Currents. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.